Let me just jump in quick, because obviously with us unschooling our kids, a big part of the philosophy of unschooling is what you just said there, Aidan. And I never thought about it from the point of view of somebody older like you. When you seek out your education yourself, right, what I'm reading over and over again with the kids is when kids seek something out for themselves, the way the brain absorbs the messages and absorbs the information, the memory, the whole desire to keep that information and to absorb it is just phenomenal, as opposed to when it's prescribed. Okay, we're doing this now, right, you need to do this and then this and then this. So isn't that funny when you say that? You seek it out yourself, and it's probably more powerful than you just ticking the boxes and fulfilling the obligations of the prescribed one. But the prescribed one is the one that has the certificate or the honour at the end of it that then leads you to the job. But you could have been somebody like, well, you're dual. You're doing both things. You're seeking your own education just via your zest for information and knowledge, which is probably feeding you in ways you won't even know for a long time. And then you're also doing the prescription, and you're ticking the boxes and making sure that you've done everything that they've asked you to do. And one of those things is going to, on paper, which is another thing that's up for debate now, because where are the jobs? Where are the jobs now? But when you get that bit of paper that says, yes, I'm qualified at this level, where is that job now? And actually, you being a passionate person who's learnt something you're really passionate about, that's probably much more valuable in the real world, I would assume.
So why are you going to university, Aidan? What's your purpose?
Just for the accreditation.
Yeah, so what's that leading to? Is it a vocational path that you're going through? You're so trying to achieve something like that?
Yeah. So
yeah. So Sam, what you're saying is school and everything, it's sort of an automatic learning, isn't it? Like what you're saying, it's a prescribed thing, it's a method of learning, but it's really, it's just the parameters of life, isn't it? Unfortunately, you have to go through that, don't you, to get into that route, to get usually, not always, but usually to get a job, don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, I did exams at school, but I hated school. So my learning was all through a process that I didn't like. Right. So obviously when we're doing stuff we love, the learning's a lot deeper, isn't it? What we get out of it might not be facts and figures, but because we're investing so much emotionally in ourselves, we learn about ourselves, really, don't we? In them moments. That's probably the difference, isn't it?
I think exactly that. And
one's about ourselves, spirituality, and all the things that contribute to keeping us happy and things like that. All the really important things in life. Whereas the school stuff, when you see it like that, is bollocks, isn't it? It's not.
You just end up conforming. It's one size. It has to be one size fits everybody. We need to keep everybody sort of on the clock or within the parameters, safe. We need to keep everybody uniform. We need, and it's not that these things are terrible things. It's just when you really get down into the depths of what is the quality of something? Well, the quality is when you're engaged. It's difficult to be engaged in a room with 40 people doing fucking anything.
So you see it as having a negative effect then, obviously?
No, I don't think it's how do you balance it? This is, for me, it's a level of depth that you're willing to look at the situation. Number one, the education system is so rigidly implemented into our psyche as how we frame everything. Education, as we understand it, which is go to a good school, work hard, head down, get good grades, get to a good university.
That's the system, mate.
That's how we understand everything we've been sold.
To,
prosperity, success, to be respected, to have a life of, all of these honours and medals and privileges that we're told that we need to go after. It's strange when you think. You just said it as a man in his 40s. when you learn, we're just talking before we came out here when we were doing music stuff about like the last couple of years, you've just all of a sudden after 30 years of playing the guitar actually got your head around, no, I need to learn I'm interested now in the theory, in the science, in the map of how this works. Whereas before, now who knows why I know what, but the point is that you're passionate, you're interested, you're, like you said, emotional about it, and now you're learning, now it's going in. What I'm learning about this unschooling thing is not, how do I unschool them? It's sort of understanding how they learn, what drives children, what not to do with them, like correcting them all the time. It's fascinating, even when they're trying to speak or the spelling. One of my boys writes his threes the wrong way around, or sometimes Jesse will write backwards. He's a left-hander anyway.
Right.
So he'd have been burnt at the stake fucking once upon a time.
Yeah.
But he can write all his words how he wants to write, but backwards in a perfect order. And then I would be like, oh, no, not like that, like this. And, and what I'm learning from reading this John Holt, How Children Learn, is that to him, what that represents is if it's a 3 and it's upside down or it's back to front or whatever it is, it's a 3. And to him, that's what it represents. He's not at the point where he's aware of its actual symmetry and how it sits and how it faces the world.
Right.
But as it comes out of him, that is a 3. And that's what he means. And over the course of time, he will self-correct himself based upon what he keeps seeing, what he keeps repeating, what he keeps being privy to, just by his own curiosity, keeping moving forward. And each time that we step in and we say, no, not like that, like this, do it like this, not like that, that's putting a difficult...
so that's going to inhibit him in the long run.
Yeah, a psychological kind of...
Yeah.
Breaks on him a little bit, and
Just doing him more harm than good, that sort of thing.
Yeah, really, and I'm not doing it any justice at all. But reading the book has really been about.
So where do you
child-led.
see this going long term and everything? Do you see them? Are they going to take exams and stuff? Or? Like their full life, you're going to homeschool them till for the duration till the, I suppose, working age. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what do you see them doing? Or?
Well, it really depends what they want to do, though. So if they get to 15, for instance, we walked in my studio room in the house today to do some music. Yeah. And his 6-year-old sat on the desk, headphones on, guitar plugged in, GarageBand loaded, titled his project, and he's making a project. Yeah. He's got a drum kit on there. Friend of mine runs the Access to Music College. He said to me a couple of times, we've had a couple of homeschool kids over the years. They've come here, they're a year or two younger than all the other kids who are coming out of school because they're just ready to come here. They do the interview, he said, and they've always been just really, really well-rounded and kind of beyond their years.
Right. What's in this an interview for?
That's going to Access to Music College. So that's just a like an example of my first world life. A friend of mine runs a college, and we've talked about this thing, and he said, example is that they've always been consistently of a certain ilk. Yeah. Confidence. There's a confidence about them. Yeah. Now I don't know if that is going to ring true to anything that I'm doing or not or what, but I kind of think about that and I think, well, if they go towards that and they get to 15, 16 and they want to go to an art college or they want to go to a music college or they want to go to, whatever, study physics, if that's where it leads and we're like, right, to do that, we're going to have to go to this college or we're going to have to get these exams, or then that's what we'll do. Okay, yeah. Simple as that. Okay. If Sonny's 15 years old and he's blissing through all of this... So as they grow up, you're going to... Child-led. It's child-led. The thing that I'm learning, Dave, which I'm fucking verbose to get to, is essentially it's child-led. Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. So whatever he's buzzing on, you'll assess that, and then we'll just follow that and keep following that and keep following that, and we follow that, and that's it, because that's what he's infused about. Yeah. So we feed that, and then we learn about it. I mean, we've started doing it. We've always done it. I haven't had a meeting with some local people in the village. We've done it for 10 years. They've got a girl... That's a big onus on you then, isn't it? Because, you've... that's a big responsibility then, isn't it? Well, it is. It is. Yeah. But also what was really starting to... My wife and I, Alex, we'd lay in bed sometimes saying, nothing against anybody here, but like, we're handing our kids over to some people every day for 8 hours a day who we wouldn't necessarily sit and have a coffee and chew the fat with and share opinions and views and like perspectives and world energy with.
Yeah.
And now it's not all about having an echo
not.
chamber.
I remember my teachers.
It's not about creating an echo chamber in any way. Do you know what I mean? But like, when you do start to think about it,
let's face it, most of them are mental. You know, you think you've been kind there.
Well, it is when you know. I mean, everybody's different, and this is just where we are. It's just where we are. And I just know that when my kids are on it, they're into something, it gives me a buzz. I get a buzz.
Oh yeah, of course it does. Yeah.
And you've said this to me, something you've put into me about when you've took the kids off and you've gone up to the peaks and you get in the water and you're swimming in the water and everyone's in the water and, you know, like one thing leads to another and everybody's exploring.
See, I think that's the more important side of life. Yeah, them experiences and that side of learning and stuff like that. Yeah.
Being in the world, practical, physical,
But I feel about school that, you know, the world has its ways and there's certain things you can't kick against in terms of providing your children with options.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I can provide them experiences, what you're talking about, outside school.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I'm with you.
I do know what you're saying. Yeah, and like I have said, I think it's fact now that, you know, when I was at school, qualifications were everything. You know, that was drummed into you, and that was probably right. And there's been a change there now. I think as an employer, you can have kids coming through with qualifications and whatnot, but when you get a kid, most of them are fucked these days, kids, aren't they? You know what I mean? So when you get a kid that's got a sense of just common sense and a sense of the world and how to treat people and things like that, I would think nowadays you are getting employers that would, because of the way kids are, they'll prioritise that more than qualifications and the traditional examples of their fit for whatever role they're offering. You know what I mean?
I think
there is a definite change in the world.
It feels like today, and when we allude to kids are fucked today, I think a big part of that is what we said before. It's about the way that we've cushioned everything, we've made everything abundant, we've made everything just automatic. There's something in having to do nitty gritty, hard work, getting a lump of coal or a slap around the face for Christmas. We joke, by the way. You know, point being, when there's some grit and grind and earning something, some value, some meaning, that's what there is. There's some meaning.
Yeah.
There's some meaning.
Yeah. I agree with you totally. I agree with you totally. You know, what makes me essentially me and the good parts of me, it doesn't come from school, you know.
It's weird, man. I mean,
What books?
Oh, there's something totally inappropriate.
No, there's nothing inappropriate on Untitled Chapter.
Oh, sorry, irrelevant. I meant actually.
Okay, well that's better. Sorry, Aidan.
What books are you talking about when you said that you'd read someone?
So I've just finished John Holt, How Children Learn. John Holt was one of the early kind of, I guess, a renegade in many ways, where he kind of turned his heels on the, you know, the general and conventional school curriculum and the way that children learn and the education system. He was a teacher himself. I think he was like 50s, 60s. John Holt, How Children Learn. Yeah. If you can get a snippet, try and find a snippet, an audio snippet or trailer from this. Again, every time I read books, and I've listened to this one because I was listening to this one at work, I'm actually reading, at the same time I've been listening to this one, I've been reading Alfie Kahn, Unconditional Parenting, which is about, not just parenting, but it's about how children learn, but ultimately it's not even about school, it's just about kids and how the relationship between you and the child and how you conduct yourself and the way you use your language and the line of communication and the expectations and the idea that things are conditional or unconditional, which affects how they learn because it affects their confidence and their belief and their feeling of safety, you know, and being anchored and harnessed and confident and willing. That's really interesting to me. And that all is what slots straight into this idea that if you're in a position you're lucky, like Alex and I are. Is this John Holt?
Yeah.
Okay, let's listen to John Holt, because he's a powerful dude.
Curious, eager to learn, extraordinarily resourceful and competent at learning, that they are, in the most literal sense of the word, scientists. They do exactly what scientists do. They use the scientific method in making sense of the world around them. And then they get to a certain age, which may be as young as 3, but in any case, the age of school, and this process is turned off by adults who think they are now going to direct and control the learning of these children, who they treat them like empty receptacles into which they are going to pour whatever learning they think they ought to have.
In 1964, John Holt, an Ivy League graduate and a teacher in alternative schools, published his first book, How Children Fail, in which he lays the blame for the failure of school children squarely on the compulsory school system. Not surprisingly, How Children Fail was extremely controversial, and John Holt was soon famous for rattling the American national consciousness. Perhaps no one knows more about John Holt and his work than Pat Ferenga.
I just said that's great. That'd be crazy what you said.
Yeah, well, but I'll tell you, Aidan, I'll tell you now, Christmas Day, isn't it, anyway? I've got you a book by him.
Oh, have you?
Because I've thought about you and I'm reading it. Like, he's talking about the basic. It's fascinating. We're getting in the way of kids.
Yeah.
We just need to make sure they're safe and they're loved and they're nurtured, and then let them go. And you just know the parameters from there. Do you know what I mean? And I see that in your family anyway, and you've said that yourself in the sense of where you're at, which is you're out with the kids doing that stuff all the time. You're out there just free, exploring, just there's a looseness and it's anchored. That's what it is. And it's a big part of, what we talked about at the beginning of this podcast this year. You've opened me up to that whole camping, wild camping. Every time I take my kids wild camping, it's some of the most powerful fucking things you'll ever see. Your kids running free in the woods, running free in nature, not a care in the world, coming up with games. Just that even. Coming up with games. As you mentioned before, you watched the telly for 45 minutes because that was when it was on, kids' telly, 45 minutes. Then you had to do something else. And when you've got to do something else when you're a kid, it comes from here. You're not being led. And I think what you're picking up on there, Aidan, about what John Holt just said there, we're just pouring whatever information into them we desire they think they need to know, when actually they are just a bubbling sponge, and they're going to create wonder that we can't even begin.
Yeah, I think that's that was similar to like.
See if you can get Alfie Conn, Unconditional Parenting.
Is it F-I?
KHO or N, I think, or OHON. Unconditional Parenting. Yeah, there it is. This is, I'm reading this at night, and again, leading earlier in the podcast when you mentioned about my upbringing, I'm reading this at night, and it's painful. It's painful because all of the way that I was brought up was conditional, let's say. If I fulfill these obligations and these criteria, then I can be accepted and loved, and I can be seem to be reaching the heights or the precedent that's been set for me. Right. And if I don't meet that, then I'm outside of that love, and it's weird because my worst parts of my parenting are that imprinting of that, when I catch myself like that. Do you know what I mean? Like being a bit informal and expectant, and I don't know. It's been quite painful reading about it.
Yeah.
But some discipline's necessary, though.
Yeah. Listen, man, you've been there. You've seen what goes on with my kids, Aidan. Yeah. Discipline is absolutely part of the package. There's no question.
Are you going to be teaching them academical stuff then, similar to school?
So what we do at the moment, we're just reading. And again, If you were to listen to that book I've just listened to, Dave, that John Holt, How Children Learn, which has nothing to do with unschooling, it's nothing to do with parenting per se, it's how children learn.
Yeah.
It's mind-blowing and instinctively and intuitively.
You know, earlier on when you were saying, and I know your intention for your kids is to give them the best life, right? I've known you that long. You know, you're a lovely person, good parent.
Thank you.
So
Cut that out, Aidan.
So a lot of that is to do with giving your children options, isn't it? And like what you're alluding to first, it's going to be child-led. So the spectrum is everything, isn't it? So if you get an understanding of one of your children's taking a path that needs it's a very academical path or something like that. Mm-hmm. How at what age will you identify that, and how well will you be through your path you're taking? How robust that will be to provide them at that stage a path into that in terms of academics and
that's
stuff.
something we're going to have to work out, because it's an ever-changing platform now as well, isn't it? The way it's being, like, for instance, okay, so let's say Sonny he loves his literature and he's a writer and he's well into it and he's reading all of the people, you know, and he's blowing us away with what he's reading and he's writing stuff, and it's like, whoa. Then we have to sit with him and we have to say, okay, what do you want to do with this? And we have to look at what are the options in the culture? You know, what are the options? Can we be an intern at some company somewhere? Do we need to get a specific degree to move in this direction? Can you just write and self-publish? I don't know. We have to. I'm not too held up at the moment on that point when we hit, let's say 7 years from now, you know, when we're at sort of 13, 14, 15.
Yeah.
What we're going to do at that point, because I really don't know what's going to happen at that point. My kids might say to me next year, Dave, I want to go back to school, Dad, I don't like it.
Right.
And I'll say, okay.
Right.
Do you know? Because it's child-led. You know, we're not just, my wife and I aren't just gone, oh, fucking, you know, fuck the world and,
no, absolutely
pull them out. We've talked to them. How do you feel about school? You know, they've come out, and COVID's been a big reveal for us. Before my first son was born, Alex and I talked a lot about what would we do schooling-wise. You know, didn't like the idea of him necessarily just churning through something for its sake. And then as we always kind of thought, well, we'll play it out with them and we'll see what happens. And it'd probably be when they're like going into big school, when we're probably homeschool. That's what we used to think. We're homeschool. Never really thought any more about it than that. And then leading up to COVID, there was a couple of things happening with my kids where I think they were starting to train them to not have a wee. You had to have a wee on your break or on dinner, you know? And then if you asked for a wee, like, fucking, you were kind of encouraged to, no, you should have a wee. And I'm thinking, fucking, they're 5, man. You know, what if 5-year-old needs to go to the toilet, he just needs to go to the toilet. That's
strange, man, isn't it?
You know, so...
That's strange.
Little things...
What school, that's your local school here?
Yeah, no, listen, my little local school's a great little school. I was really happy with it. It's nothing against... There's nothing to an individual establishment or... You said it yourself. It's structure. It's very self. It's the momentum of structure. I just think it's big and it's homogenized and it's, for us, doesn't feel right. And these things happen. And then up to COVID, when they start teachers wearing masks and everybody and the kids can't sing. I think one of the first days into the COVID thing when they went back to the school, it was you know, so and so's birthday today, but we couldn't sing happy birthday. We had to put the headphones on and the telly sang happy birthday, and
it's fucked up.
And I'm starting to think things like that, you know. And then Sonny got told off because he shared a pen or he grabbed someone's something and he got a little bit of a telling off, and then they're not allowed to go to the toilet. And my little boy's weeing himself about 4 days in a row.
I don't know what you're saying. Yeah.
And I just thought, this is where we are now, Dave. That's not getting better. I mean, whatever's going to happen in the new version of the world, COVID world.
Yeah.
You know. Kids at 5 and 6 year old, you are literally imprinting them. You're imprinting their hard drive forever. So if you learn at 5 for a couple of years to 7 that you don't hug people and you stay away from people and you wash your hands My little boy's hands coming home from school, his hands are fucking red raw.
My youngest is like that. It's not red raw, but yeah, she don't like
She's
it.
not
And
far off.
the sore.
I mean, we've sent in our soap and stuff, but you know what it's like. Kids get caught up in the whatever, and
Yeah, it's
they
weird.
just do what they're
I
told.
mean, I don't know. There is things like that. I don't know why they're sanitising kids' hands when they
Especially
and when they're sore.
with cheap,
Don't.
shitty, fucking
Yeah, absolutely.
chemical-ridden shit.
Absolutely,
Not with
absolutely.
good stuff. Not with
Absolutely.
thoughtful. Just shit.
Yeah,
just
yeah.
to tick the box because
Yeah.
Ofsted said, "Have you got the fucking hand sanitizer?"
But life is fucked up, innit, a lot of the time. You know, we were on about it at work the other day, about all the ups and downs. You do need the shit and the good stuff and the whole all the colours on the palette that make whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like my dad, he was he was about 7 to 13 when the Second World War were on. His dad was at war for 7 years. Didn't send any money home. They were very poor. His mum was sent to the fields to fart about, cutting veg for cause and all that. So there was horrible aspects to his childhood. You know, if you think of your father at war, and every knock on the door, he says he thought, you know, that was just it. But he was one of the, the best people. Obviously, you always think highly of your dad, don't you? But
Yeah, but well, I don't think everybody
he's
does.
a
Dave,
good
but
bloke.
you
There's plenty
seem
of
to have a
people at
lovely,
his
warm-
funeral, you know what I mean? He was a really good bloke.
Yeah.
And his childhood was fucked up. So there is that aspect to it, isn't there?
Yeah, that'll never change. That for sure. That'll never change. It's a. I don't know.
Shit happens, and we are very adaptable, and yeah,
I see what you're saying.
you know what I mean. It's all part of life's.
I just feel like the where we are right now, 2021. Whether we spoke to Aidan earlier, who's 21 years old and he's doing his degree and he's kind of doing it via a FaceTime call, when on the other screen on his laptop he's listening to Jordan Peterson or fill in the blank philosopher of our times, who's probably giving him as much valuable information just off the cuff.
Yeah.
You know, like we're in this confusing time, and for me,
We are, mate, yeah.
as I've learnt from you this year with wild camping and getting my family out wild camping and all the rest of it, and so many conversations on this podcast this year with people who are just fucking ecstatic dancing or meditating or just simplifying, man. And I think taking your decision making away from other people as much as we can. And that's kind of where I'm at. And this thing with the kids out of school, it was their last day yesterday.
Yeah.
And for the last couple of weeks, I've been saying to them every now and again, because every now and again at night we'll mess about with meditating, and it's me totally blagging them basically.
Wow.
You know, they've realised if they say, "Daddy, can we meditate?" They can like have me in the room for like an extra 10 minutes before we actually go to sleep. Can we meditate? Daddy? All right, go on then. Okay. So I'm like, all right. And I'm thinking, nice one. The kids, so we sit and we just 10 breaths, eyes shut and just think and that and be grateful and all that. Kiss, night. And I said to them these last couple of weeks, I said, boys, how do you feel about, you've only got a couple of weeks left and then that's that, Are you okay? Are you upset? Fucking hell, we're on fire, Dave. Let's keep that going. Is that look good?
Move the icebox. Move the icebox.
Let's move the icebox.
I thought I'd smelt some burning.
There we go, Bobby. Fucking, it's like we're out camping, Dave, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, I said to the boys a couple of times, I said, look, if you can, every now and again, boys, in this last week, I said, if you do find yourself in a moment, I said, have a couple of breaths like we do when we're doing our meditating. And I said, and just remember the chairs. Remember the markings on the tarmac. Remember your friends' faces. Remember your coat peg. I said, just have a look around. I said, because you might not see that again. That might be the last time you see that. I'll just try and remember your friends and remember things. Remember the things that stick out. And they did it, and they sort of forget about it, and were just saying it in passing as an idea. But then 2 nights later, Sonny come in and he said, Daddy, you come in. He said, I had a moment today, and I thought about my friends because I won't see them, will I? But I will see them, won't I? Because we'll go to the park because there's a park straight outside the school. Yeah. So 3 nights a week, we'll just go to school anyway, and play with all his mates for an hour after. Yeah. But it was really nice that he'd kind of that gone in some way or another.
Yeah.
But the whole point being is that we just speak to him, you know, how are you feeling? What do you want to do? Gives us there is a little bit of pressure in the sense of, for Alex and I, because the more I'm learning is, you know, if I'm in the room, not necessarily with you today, because obviously we've got a guest and we're doing something, we're playing the garage band, but if I'm in there on the garage band and somebody comes in and he wants to do something and he's got that little bit between his teeth and he wants to get on it, then I've got to start being less selfish in those moments and recognising the moment to latch on to his little bit of energy.
Yeah.
And push that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And then realising that when we are in garage band, this isn't him and me having bonding time having garage band. This is him learning all sorts of shit. He's learning the navigation in the machine. He's learning how to save files. He's learning general housekeeping.
Yeah.
By which I mean everything. You know, how to keep things tidy, leave it as it was, wrap the wires up, put that back.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, yeah.
And I've got, like, as you witnessed today when we sat down and I put the file on, and it was like, there's like 4 or 5 titles in GarageBand of his little projects that he's like started.
Yeah, yeah.
It's weird.
I mean, I totally agree with you about the importance of all that. Totally agree with you. Totally.
Yeah, I just, it's exciting. It's exciting. We'll see what happens 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the world we're in,
Wish
it,
you
give
all
anything
the
a
best.
go.
Wish you all the best.
Give it all a go.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
anything can happen. What do you reckon, Aidan? Aidan, you're going to stick your head in every now and again, Aidan, aren't you? And make sure they're academically sound.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you've
But I'm
Aidan
actually
sat with the kids a couple of times and,
yeah.
you know, and use that energy, because they
Yeah,
love
yeah.
it when E-Tip comes round. When Aidan comes round, it's like, wow.
I'm sure they'll be fine, mate. I'm sure they'll be fine. I'm sure. Yeah,
I
good
hope
luck.
so. I hope so. And if they're not, then fuck it. If they're happy, that'll do. Happy and healthy. In 2021, I think that's not a bad crack. If you can achieve that, if you can achieve happy and healthy in 2021, I think you're winning, aren't you?
Yeah.
Hey?
Yeah.